Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Daily Sports Card Podcast. It's been a while, hasn't it, Haylie?
It's been quite a while that I've been in this chair. I can hear that for a fact.
It's been quite a while, and so much has happened that we need to bring you guys. It is your host and now sports editor for the North Texas Daily, Ian Pfaffenberger, back with the senior staff writer for the North Texas Daily, Haylie Stum. We're back to talk about football. Now managing editor Justin Naw couldn't join us today. So sad. But there's a lot to talk about with North Texas football, with the transfer portal, with all of the coaching additions. We're going to try to highlight some of the players that have been nabbed out of the portal, some of the coaching additions that have happened. We're going to get into it. I'm excited.
Yeah, not much else to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just a lot of recapping and a lot of just profiling, a lot of new people.
Yeah, we've had to watch this situation unfold slowly over the last month or so, and now we're kind of starting to see all the stars align and what the plan maybe looks like for this Mean Green team heading into next season, trying to capitalize off of that record-breaking season they had last year. So without any further ado, let's get into it. All right. Sorry for that, Mike. So far, I'm sure they probably added another one while I was literally just making these notes. UNT has acquired 41 transfers out of the transfer portal so far. Not quite sure where that ranks up from last year, but it is a high amount. I saw that Oklahoma State, or someone had the most, and it was around 40. So UNT is up there at the top of the FBS in transfer additions. A lot of guys coming in look to be really strong. A lot of Power 4 guys. Early notes, just looking at the position groups, offensive line heavy, defensive back heavy. We'll get into these specific players here, I guess right now. January 5th, mentioned offensive line and safety, but we're going to start with a punter, with a special teams specialist. He had Ian Ratliff from Appalachian State. Maybe you're wondering, why are we even talking about this guy? He ranks 28th in the FBS with net punting last year. He comes from Appalachian State with special teams coordinator Jeff Crosby and his long snapper, forget his name, and then Dominic DeFreitas, the kicker there. So special teams, obviously not flashy, but definitely important. The 2010 San Diego Chargers, if any of you guys know, had the number one ranked offense and number one ranked defense, but the last ranked special teams, they did not make the playoffs.
Yeah, and hey, you can't sleep on it. If you've been keeping up with any of the NCAA national championships, besides the FBS one that's coming up this week, you've seen that special teams have hurt a lot of people in a lot of these games. So punting wasn't necessarily a huge part of North Texas's identity this year with the top total offense and scoring offense in the nation, but we don't know what this offense is going to look like in 2026. So this could be a huge piece that probably will get overlooked, but in the end, you might look at it and go, yeah, that probably was an important pickup.
Yeah. Now that that's out of the way, we'll get into some of the key as it happened. January 6th, kind of after the first day when transfers started rolling in, arguably one of the bigger pickups in the transfer portal, CJ Coombs, I think is how you say his last name, sophomore safety out of Wofford. He was a walk-on in Tulsa in 2023 before transferring to Wofford. Showed his true potential there, earned multiple freshman All-American nods in 2024. He posted 88 tackles and 2 takeaways. By the season's end, he was a Jerry Rice Award finalist, which is given to the top freshman in the football championship subdivision. He only played 5 games last year because of a sprained knee, but a very big add for the UNT secondary. That needed player. I mean, every position group on this team needs players. Lost every single person on the starting lineup on the depth chart. But very good player to shore up what was a unit that had a defensive unit that had the highest, or one of the highest turnover margins in the FBS last year. He's going to be, if I had to imagine, strong safety, box safety, running around, making tackles, just overall very aggressive player. So good, exciting add there. Next up, on January 6th, Keyshawn Davila, another defensive back, a junior cornerback out of Arkansas. He was the number 1 ranked JUCO prospect, however, in 2024. Before going to Arkansas, didn't get much playing time there, so now he's coming here to probably we say, get some reps. A lot of defensive backs have been added to this class. Him and Chase Canada, UNT cornerback, who remained with the team, seem to have a good relationship. They've kind of tweeted at each other, quoted each other on X, the Everything app. So maybe some good chemistry there, which is good stuff. Henry Fanuku, January 6th, a freshman offensive lineman from Missouri, one of the first offensive lineman ads that UNT has prioritized in this transfer portal. Spent 1 year on the bench at Missouri before he decided to return to Texas, a common theme you'll see in this transfer class. He was a very sought-after lineman out of high school as a 4-star prospect. Out of North Crowley, hint, we will touch on that later. He received offers from Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas A&M before settling on Missouri. He's the highest rated, when I wrote these notes, was the highest rated interior offensive lineman by 247 Sports to transfer to a Group of 5 school. And finally, on January 6th, North Texas had Chandler Strong, a redshirt junior inside offensive lineman from Georgia Southern. He was a 3-star starter at Georgia Southern, third-team selection on College Football News' freshman All-American team in 2023. Haylie, what are your takes on
Yeah,
that
I was
first
about to
day?
say I didn't want to jump in and break your mojo
All right,
there.
we're going to try to break this up into days, I guess is how we'll do this.
Yeah, first two things about Keyshawn Davila. His relationship with him and Chase Canada. That sounds a little familiar to Patrick Smith Young and Will Jones.
Yeah,
Kind
exactly.
of that camaraderie on the secondary. So hopefully that could play a huge piece in bringing the culture together on a team to where you've got to do a lot of team bonding really quickly, right? Because you don't have a lot of guys passing the torch. You're kind of building the torch and lighting it every single year.
Exactly.
So thought that was a little cool note. And then also talk about two key offensive lineman pickups in the same day. Not only that, that's obviously a group that you want a lot of competition in. Be able to do that on the second day, I think kind of set the tone for the pickups to follow in terms of the guys in the trenches up front.
Yeah, I think Fanuco and Strong really shape up to probably be day one starters. Strong obviously having that rep, just being a 3-year starter at Georgia Southern, which isn't much of a higher step up to the American now at this point. And then Fanuco, obviously from North Crowley, knows Coach Ray Gates. We'll get into his impact in this transfer portal. 4-star prospect out of high school, really raw and just a freshman, so a ton of time to develop. Obviously was at a Power 4 program, so I think he plays really nicely to maybe have a starting role this next year also. Moving on to the next day, January 7th, some key adds, as we mentioned before. Dominic DeFritas, freshman kicker, I think that's how you say his last name, Appalachian State, third-team All-Sunbelt selection, finished the season 20 of 25 for field goals with a long of 49. So a good guy to replace Callie Nguma, who was a really solid kicker for the Mean Green last year. Good thing to shore up that special teams unit here early in the transfer portal. And then arguably, I would say the biggest add of the transfer portal for the Mean Green, Jaheim White, a junior running back from West Virginia. He was a standout player in 2023 and 2024. He broke the Mountaineers' program record for yards per carry his freshman year with 7.7 a carry on 109 total carries. Tallied over 800 rushing yards both years before sitting out in 2025 with a knee injury. Brings a lot of he's 5'7", brings a lot of experience and elusiveness to a running back room that lost obviously Caleb Hawkins, Mackenzie McGill, Kiefer Sibley, and Ashton Gray. So probably the most needy position group for the Mean Green gets a huge home run hitter with Jaheim White and the returning Jaden Becks, who drew his name out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, I was about to basically say the exact same thing you just said, right? We saw how much being able to rely on the running game opened up this UNT offense. Obviously, they've always been dominant in the air, but being able to kind of balance that thing out a little bit was key. And I know, obviously, it's not Morris's scheme anymore technically, but when you listen to Neil Brown speak, he has a lot of the same goals and mindset offensively that Eric Morris did as well. So anticipating, looking to dominate in the air and complement it with a really good ground game is going to be key, and being able to get a P4 guy out of the portal who is proven, and then back that up with Becks, who still has a lot of talent, just needs to be developed and get more carries, more snaps, more time, I think is a great job by the portal.
I think this is a good time to go into our first highlight coaching hire. Mike Blowish, who used to serve on the North Texas staff, went to California for a little bit, has gotten hired back as the tight ends coach and run game coordinator. So just going into that, he's, I'm sure, had a say in bringing in Jaheim White. When he was the run game coordinator or offensive coordinator here with his first stint at UNT, directed one of the nation's leading rushing attacks in 2021. They finished the season, Mean Green finished the season ranked number 5 nationally in rushing offense at 234 yards per game, as DeAndre Torrey rushed for 1,215 yards on the year. So a great coach to bring in to maintain and maybe even improve that running game for the Mean Green that was so good with Caleb Hawkins last year, bringing in a really talented running back like Jaheim White and a coach like Mike Blowish, who will hone down on the run game there, is going to be very good for this Mean Green team come next season. January 8th now, yes. Key adds, Muhammad Diawara, defensive end from Sioux Falls, second-team selection in the D2 All-Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference after finishing the season with 19 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, and a team-best 4.5 sacks in just 10 games. Really good stats on a slightly smaller body of work that you get in the season. Caden Jenkins, really good add for the secondary, a junior quarterback from Baylor. Power 4 experience, really good. from Louisville. He was named into an All-American team his freshman season from the Athletic in 2023. Recorded 3 receptions, 3 pass breakups, 2 fumble recoveries. Played 3 seasons at Baylor before transferring here to North Texas. Overall, had 71 tackles, 10 PBUs, and 4 interceptions. So a very good body of work at a Power 4 school. Now he's coming to North Texas. Should show up to play really nice and maybe get a starting nod at corner. And then Brandon Jones, Mr. Pick Six himself from high school. Freshman defensive back from McNeese State. Spent last year there at McNeese State, had 2 interceptions as a freshman. I read ints off the notes. Nicknamed Mr. Pick Six, of course, for setting that Pick Six record back in high school. So very talented, very raw prospect there as well.
Yeah, I actually covered Brandon Jones when he was at Summer Creek.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Crazy pull there. But yeah, I would freelance when I went home for Thanksgiving break and covered Texas high school football. And they do a triple header at NRG Stadium during the playoffs. And one of the games was Summer Creek and Katy Jordan, I believe. And that was the year that Brandon Jones had broke the record.
Did he get a pick six?
I don't think he had a pick six.
Oh,
I do
so
believe he had a pick. But what I will say about Jones, just from the eye test, you can debate how good my eyes are. I think he was extremely under-recruited out of high school. I don't know if it was size, just the measurables, because in football that's so important.
Yeah.
But he has all the raw athleticism and talent that you would want in a DB. And I'm excited to see what he does under this new defensive scheme and new North Texas program.
Yeah. One more guy I forgot from the January 8th transfers was Johnny Williams IV, a sophomore offensive tackle out of Missouri. Humongous frame. He is 6'7", 327 pounds. He was competing for a starting job at Missouri, ended up sitting on the bench. One of the better offensive line transfers coming into the group of 5. Just a Power 4 build and a guy coming to a group of 5 conference. Definitely has a shot to start at that offensive tackle position. Another offensive line transfer from Missouri, one of 3 that North Texas has got, so another exciting add there. Now into January 9th. Aaron Alexander, a junior linebacker out of Arkansas State. He broke out last year there at the Wolves, finished with 91 tackles, posted 4 games with double-digit stops, including a 16-tackle performance in a win over Appalachian State. And then Josiah Martin, a redshirt sophomore wide receiver from Oklahoma. Not a huge body of work in college, but he is a Denton Geyer product. Just another theme from the Ray Gates recruiting going on here. Redshirted with the Sooners this last season, had 112 receiving yards at Cal in 2024, but his high school tape shows him to be very athletic and possibly a breakout watch for a very thin UNT wide receiver core. And then just going back to Aaron Alexander, obviously the 91 tackles I think is huge for linebacker core that lost Ethan Weslowski and to the transfer portal and then Trey Fields. Ethan Weslowski, of course, had 100-plus tackles this season. Really need someone to shore up the middle of that defense, probably be a play caller, be able to run around the field.
Yeah, an entire core you lost, right? Shane Witter, Trey Fields, and then obviously Ethan Weslowski. So you got 3 really good tacklers right there. Being able to back it up with a straight fit plug and play is going to be key for this defense.
Yeah. January 10th, key additions. We have Justin Benton, a sophomore defensive lineman from American rival East Carolina. 3 years of eligibility remaining. Last year, he had 19 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and half a sack. For a defensive tackle, a position that really doesn't rack up that many stats, are kind of just in the middle of the field to be a run stuffer and not really make them any tackles. He put up some good stats, and coming from an American team, obviously has that experience against these teams, will be a really good add for a defensive defensive tackle room that lost a lot of players. Taven Jackson, of course, junior quarterback from UCF, arguably the highest profile add, I guess you could say, coming from UCF and was a 4-star prospect out of high school. He joined UCF from Indiana in the offseason, started 10 games this last season for 2,151 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, and added 3 rushing touchdowns. Chris Jimerson is kind of figured to be the quarterback one, just on early on, just with the lack of quarterback transfers that we got. But Taven Jackson makes it interesting. And then finally, on January 10th, we have Wesley Hudson, another defensive lineman from Central Oklahoma. Really good add for the Mean Green. An all-conference selection. He's posted 58 career tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, again, as a defensive tackle. 2 years of eligibility remaining.
Yeah, January 10th was a huge day for me. Number one, I really like the Justin Benton pickup, and the reason why is he's a sophomore defensive lineman coming from a G5 fit he's got a lot of eligibility. A lot of these guys are going to be good ads, but they're a lot older and don't have as much eligibility. So looking forward to, hopefully, you never know with the way the transfer portal is moving and eligibility is moving and shaking, possibly having someone who can be like a mainstay in this front for the defense. That would be really key. We saw that when North Texas was able to get a lot of players with experience and career starts, the portal pickups look a lot different to me this year than past year, which is a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But last year, they're really focusing on just getting guys who had done the thing, no matter at what level. And I think that's going to be a really good just add, be able to get someone who can maybe possibly set the tone, set the culture year in and year out.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, in the last few years, those Power 4 additions that the Mean Green were able to get are usually dudes who have barely had any playing time and were already a lot older, and just dudes who wanted to maybe see if they had a shot on this team. But you're getting a lot of young guys now. You're getting raw talent, a lot of people on this offensive line, a lot of people in the backfield, guys who are freshmen and sophomores who are going to have a lot of years of eligibility remaining, especially with how college football is going with these eligibility years they're giving out. So it's a great move for right now and a fantastic move for the future, like you said, Haylie. January 11th, some key additions. I'm going to let you take this name.
Nato Omozulo.
Yes, junior offensive lineman from Texas, another Power 4 addition in the trenches for the Mean Green. He made 24 total appearances in 4 seasons at Texas, including 11 in the 2025 season. Never started, but again, Power 4 experience is huge at this level. ZJ Johnson, a very good secondary add in a transfer class that has a ton of them for the Mean Green, from southeastern Louisiana as a cornerback, had 11 PBUs this season for the Lions, became a hot commodity in the transfer portal, came to UNT over this last weekend following a visit here. And then Jalen Early, another one of the last 3 of the 3 offensive linemen that transferred from Missouri to UNT. Duncanville product, another common theme there. 4-star coming out of high school. Helped lead Duncanville to a 6A D1 championship in 2021. Spent 3 years at Florida State. Really great build. Obviously, more Power 4 experience coming from Missouri. He's going to immediately have chemistry with Fenuku and Johnny Williams, those other 2 offensive line transfers from Missouri. A good day to shore up the offensive line for the Mean Green, and really good key ads there.
Yeah, actually, out of high school, they predicted Jalen Early 24/7. That is they. Said he had the potential to develop into an NFL draft candidate. That's not often that we say that about players coming out of Denton. So being able to, again, just the season that North Texas just had just continues to prove how much it impacts just the program as a whole. And I think that's why we're seeing these kind of highly touted guys. Obviously, you've got these guys coming home. Obviously, there's that tie. But how many other universities are in the DFW area? This is a North Texas-specific recruiting push, and the 2025 season just continues to prove what this program can be when there's some kind of investment and product on the field.
January 12th, key ads. Cedric Roberts, sophomore linebacker from Alcorn State, 72 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 1 sack in 2025. Another big defensive line ad, Christian Lorenzo from Illinois State. He came over with new defensive line coach Ben Black. He had 29 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks this last season, has 1 year of eligibility remaining. James Tyree, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, sophomore wide receiver from Western Carolina, led the Southern Conference with a team-best 68 receptions, posting 3 or more catches in all 12 games this last season, finished second in the conference with a career-best 832 receiving yards, ranked 33rd in the NCAA during the regular season. Had 5.67 receptions per game, 69.3 receiving yards per game, and led the Southern Conference with 11 receiving touchdowns. I think, 5'10" is what you said is his build?
Yeah, 5'10", 175. So he's going to kind of be that like Miles Coleman, Landon Sides type feel player. And again, it's going to be another one of those like plug and play guy that the North Texas fan base is familiar with, just a different name.
Yeah, but just a very good addition to shore up the wide receiver room. Obviously lost all of his guys from last year and hasn't really been a priority from what it seems like for the Mean Green in the transfer portal, but added Tyre, a guy who has experience and has put up numbers, so a good shore up there. January 13th, last day I have on the list here, Breck Long, redshirt junior tight end out of South Alabama. Another position Mean Green hasn't really focused on. They had Max Reese, another tight end transfer, but Breck Long probably figures to be the tight end one. He was a former first-team National Junior College All-American tight end prior to being at South Alabama. He came from South Alabama this last year. And then Davion Rhodes, a redshirt senior defensive end from Georgia Southern, same as Chandler Strong. Started all 13 games last season, had 37 tackles and 7 tackles for loss. An honorable mention, all Sun Belt Conference selection.
Man,
That's it.
that's it.
There's a ton more. Those are the guys we figured we'd highlight. They have rep at these lower levels, have a lot of eligibility remaining, have played at the higher levels. Honestly, on paper, just a very talented transfer class for the Mean Green.
I'm very excited to see just the lines on both sides of the ball for North Texas. When we watched that South Florida game, it was very clear that there was a big discrepancy between North Texas's front lines and South Florida's front lines. And you saw the difference, not necessarily in the first half, but the second half, and how that can really disrupt a game. To be able to kind of combat that with what we're picking up in the transfer portal, it's going to be huge. And it might be a difference maker in terms of what level can North Texas continue to elevate, or are they going to just fall back into old patterns and kind of go with that 7-6 season or 6-7 season, 6-7 season or whatnot. Being able to continuously elevate the program year in and year out, I think it does start up front. And I'm very excited to see, just based on this portal and then maybe what we're going to pick up out of the high school ranks, how this team's going to shape up.
Yeah, and obviously the offensive line for the Mean Green last year is probably the best in the American, one of the better ones in the FBS. All 5 starters earned a All-American Conference selection. So obviously it's a key element to any football team, like you said, Haylie, but you don't really want to go from having a really good one to a really not so good one. And with the hire of Matt Maddox, who we haven't even mentioned yet, offensive line coach, formerly at ECU, with the past 2 years with the Pirates, he's coached as a part of 2 top 30 offenses. The Pirates have had 3 offensive line All-American Conference nods in the last 2 years in his time there. So a very proven and experienced offensive line coach. And then again, bringing in a lot of these guys, a lot of these bigger guys who will be able to match up with the South Floridas and with a lot of these bigger defensive lines. Fits to shore up and possibly improve upon the offensive line that UNT had last season.
Well, yeah, and then on the other side of the ball, you get Ben Black as your new defensive line coach. He comes from Illinois State, to where, if you keep up with FCS at all, they made a pretty good run this year, I would say. They actually ranked 4th in the conference in rushing yards given up per game, and they were very stout against the run, and they finished 5th in the league in defensive efficiency and number 29 in the country with 2.43 sacks per game. So very promising on both sides from the portal pickups, players, and coaches.
Yeah, and then, of course, kind of the last focus for what it seems like for the Mean Green has been the secondary. Obviously, a ton of safeties, ton of defensive backs. Then the hiring of new safeties coach Devon Codlin. He was at Notre Dame, was an ESPN 30 under 30 pick this last season. Huge up-and-comer. Is going to be a great coach back there. So just kind of at a glance, now that the transfer portal's kind of wrapping up, we'll get a few more recruits here and there. But the trenches, like you said, offensive line, defensive line, and the secondary are completely shored up, if I had to guess. Obviously something Coach Neil Brown wanted to focus on, harp on. He had a couple linebacker transfers that figure to start, but then that kind of leaves room for the skill position on offense. You didn't really get a home run quarterback transfer. Hasn't really been the case for UNT. You had Jaheim White, but you didn't really get any other guys coming in. You didn't get many wide receivers, and then, of course, you only really got the one tight end. So interesting for a coach who has an offensive pedigree, an offensive background. So to me, that shows he probably trusts the guys UNT already has on the roster, guys like Barron Tipton, Jaden Becks, who pulled his name out, Chris Jimerson, who maybe plays to be the quarterback 1 for this next season. So it's going to be really interesting how those skill group guys, the guys who make the ball move, score the points, the unit that was so special for the 2025 North Texas team, how they're going to fit in with all of these new transfers. A lot of these bigger, just more athletic, more Power 4, experienced guys. And it'll be interesting to see next season.
Yeah, and we're going to see a very different quarterback battle than what we saw between Reese Pfaffenberger and Drew Mestmaker this past year. Drew's kind of like that sit back and sling it kind of guy. Only wants to move a few steps to the left, few steps to the right. But with Taven Jackson and then Chris Jimerson Jr. going head-to-head, you're going to see the battle won on the ground for sure. It's not about the arm. It's about Taven Jackson's going to be more of, we were talking about this before the podcast, he's going to scramble a little bit more and try to get out of the pocket. But with Chris Jimerson, he's trying to get out of the pocket to pick up yards going the other way. He's going to be more of a dual threat guy. So anticipate a different look to the offense in terms of the signal caller. But that battle is going to be very reminiscent of last year, but in a completely different style.
Yeah. He does have an arm on him, though. I think he came in
does.
against UTSA, was it, through like a 37-yard touchdown pass. So, and then with the addition of Ray Gates, who we haven't even talked about yet. I think he's been the MVP of this offseason so far. He has been working his tail off on this recruiting. It seems like so many guys who moved out of the state of Texas or just out of the DFW area have been brought back, presumably through Ray Gates' influence. He comes in with Jimerson, of course, went to North Crowley. Some of these offensive line transfers have been from North Crowley. So I think just a huge add for the Mean Green there. Really great recruiting-wise. And, of course, the assistant to the head coach. I'm sure he's going to be able to mentor Chris Jimerson and a lot of these other guys heading into next season.
Yeah, this is not a hot take at all. Everything is built through that Texas high school football recruiting out of the ranks of high school. And getting Ray Gates was huge because not only is the Dallas-Fort Worth area such a hotbed for talent in Texas high school football, but you're getting the best of the best. He turned that North Crowley team into a perennial national powerhouse in the past few years. And not only getting to sell the tie of, hey, let's get some of these guys to stay home, but you get to play under a guy who conquered your home in high school is huge. In my opinion, he was the best hire of this cycle.
Yeah. Going to be some exciting stuff. This is kind of a quicker episode, but just that's kind of the wrap up. Obviously, there's still – football season's over, but there's still a lot going on. Transfer portal wraps up in the next couple of days, and then we have the official high school signing period in February. The UNT will kind of wrap up its additions at that point, and we'll get a good look at the team so far. But this is who they have so far. Good stuff forming right now. Obviously, the loss of pretty much everyone from last season hurts your heart as a UNT fan, watching all those guys go out there and get a 12-2 record on the season. But all these additions look pretty exciting. I mean, like you said, the pedigree is there. You have young guys who have talent and are going to be able to develop. You have bigger guys from the Power 4 level. You just have experience. Just, I think, an overall more exciting kind of on-paper transfer class than we've seen in the last few years.
You usually ask the questions, but I'm going to ask you one.
Okay, I'm excited. I want to answer questions.
Is there anything you think is missing from this portal class, this coaching staff that's kind of come about so far?
I think my biggest harp would be the wide receivers, right? Because you want your quarterback to be able to trust who he's going to throw the ball to, unless you want him to be a running back. Who maybe they want him to be. Maybe they want Chris Jimerson to maybe they want to form an Army-type offense, have Chris Jimerson hand the ball off or run with it. I don't know. But obviously the additions of James Tyre and then Josiah Martin, kind of the two biggest wide receiver additions. They're both decent. Tyre obviously put up good numbers. Josiah Martin's an athletic product, hasn't really done much at the collegiate level yet. But I think if you want to instill confidence in your quarterback, this even goes for tight ends too. You want to give them receivers they can trust and have put the ball in their hands and know they're going to catch it. Maybe guys like Barron Tipton or Dalton Carnes, who were on the team last year, maybe they trust those guys as well. And, of course, Jimerson probably has rep with them. But I think that's something I would have liked to see a little more out of the transfer portal. Maybe a little bit more of a splash wide receiver get, maybe someone from the American, someone from another group of 5 team, something like that. But I think it'll be okay. I trust Neil Brown. He's offensive mind after all. I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing, probably more than me. But if it were me, that's what I would like to see more. But yes, I think that probably would be our episode for right now. It's a good semester to come back. It's going to be an exciting semester. Football will wrap up in, I guess, a month or so. Won't be as much football coverage. It'll be basketball season. It'll be fun. Women's basketball beat Memphis yesterday. They're going to play an important game against Rice on Saturday to move into a tie for the American Conference. Men's basketball is doing stuff as well. And then softball will start up. That'll be awesome. That'll be fun. But it has been a good episode. Haylie, thank you for hopping on for this quick little recap of the transfer portal.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel like you should have done this episode by yourself.
Oh, no, it was fun. I had the notes. I'm reading really fast. Need to work on talking slow. But yes, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next episode of the Daily Sports Talk Podcast. Peace out.